Hello, everyone, and welcome to Challengers Chatroom, your one-stop shop for all things SGC. My name is Sam Smackshyde, and I'm joined by Matt Cubby Samuelson. And before we start, I have a very burning question for you, Cubby, that everyone is wanting to know.
Boy.
How are you doing this afternoon?
Oh, I was afraid I was gonna get caught off guard by something right off the bat, but after a little bit of thought, I'm doing pretty good. Was able to fit in a nice run before this, and excited to run this podcast with you, Smacks. It should be a good time as we're trying to set this up to be a podcast about SGC and interview people from the amateur scene, and give a chance for us to really get to know some of these teams and individuals that are participating, whether it's from a coaching staff, a player perspective. Just really looking forward to getting some good conversations going. So yeah.
Yeah, this is only the first regular episode we've got, but we already do have a guest here. We are looking for more guests to follow as well. But our guest today is going to be Dayos, head coach of Radiance. He's got some news that he dropped today, even. But before we get into his interview, let's get into a little bit of an overview on what's to be expected from this episode. We've got a week in review of what's been going down here in SGC across multiple different tournaments and organizations. We've got our own online qualifiers, our open qualifiers, and which teams did qualify for Challengers Uprising. And we got a few big upsets that happened as well over the course of this week. So we got a lot to dive into. And then, of course, we're going to be breaking into our interview with Dayos. So got a lot to look forward to today.
Yeah, and right off the bat, I know it's a little bit out of order, but hitting on one of those big upsets, Risen Esports League, they did start up their SGC circuit just on Sunday. We already had an upset with Frostfire taking down Supernova, their main squad, so not Dark Matter, but Frostfire actually taking down Supernova. I think that's something that not a lot of teams expected. Frostfire, they do have upset potential. They still have players like Quas on that roster, but Supernova going down, that's a big deal. And the fact that they aren't off to a hot start in that league, and I know they're also kind of on the burner too for Big League. We have Big League Blitz coming up this week, where those teams have to win a best of one. We don't know the matchups yet, but Supernova is going to be a part of that. So if they win a best of one to make sure they get into the lower bracket of playoffs over there. It's not a great sign they're dropping to Frostfire this week. So good, congrats Frostfire on that win. And a bit of an oopsie coming out from Supernova.
Right. Not a good sign for Supernova, but it is a good sign for Frostfire. They've got a few things coming up as well. They've got a match tonight in Upsurge, which I don't believe will be on the main stream, but that's one to watch out for here. Let's see. They are going up against Radiance tonight. Oh, no, excuse me. Slaughterhouse. That's the one.
Yeah, I've got
Yeah,
100 Thieves actually. Frostfire versus 100 Thieves tonight.
am
Yeah.
I? I'm just out of it, I
The
guess.
Upsurge
Yeah.
website, it's a little funky, but
It is a little, yeah, so.
we've come prepared with our notes. So
Though I
yeah,
just gave everyone a look as to their entire schedule leading up to this. So
that is the group. Yeah, that is the group.
those are
Yeah.
those are their opponents. I I had a 1-3 and I got it wrong both times.
Hey,
But
that
anyway.
happens. Yeah. So hey, well, let's see if Frostfire can continue their success because they're going to need their A game. They're going up against 100 Thieves next to. I think unquestionably is in that upper bracket, that S tier of amateur teams. Arguably up there with a new esports. I'd even put Supernova kind of not at the S tier, but like S minus or A plus tier, like right above them. So it's a good sign that Frostfire is knocking out one of those teams. And hey, if they come out hot against 100 Thieves next again tonight, that'd be a huge upset over in that group for Upsurge. But that said, we still want to keep on talking about this past week in review before we get to Dayos. And over here at Cup, we did have our own open qualifiers, and we had the next four teams unveiled. So congrats to the teams that made it in for those open qualifiers. And Smacks, I know that you were watching the stream, but the last game that we had on stream was an absolute banger to see who was going to get in between Supernova Dark Matter and Bark Bark.
Yeah, absolutely. And Supernova Dark Matter just barely squeaking by in just an absolute banger of a match here. And it was only first day of the open qualifiers as well. We saw on Twitter as well, Supernova Dark Matter, strutting their stuff, saying, we don't need an invite for Dark Matter. We want to fight our way through. And they did just that against Bark Bark. Very impressive showing from them. And on stream as well, we did get to see Dark Allegiance in the game previous. A little bit of a close one as well. But congratulations to both of those teams alongside Life Support and Wildcard getting into Challengers Uprising.
Yeah, and that's really big, especially for teams like Wildcard, like Dark Allegiance, who, didn't make it into every other one of the SGC leagues. Notably LWL too for Wildcard Gaming, which was a big surprise not having them qualify for that. These leagues they need those points because LWL they have the most weighted points. It's really important that they perform well in those leagues to make sure that they're able to give themselves a shot to be in those SGC playoffs to see who ends up going to LA. So props to them for qualifying. And if you guys missed the Supernova Bark Bark match, there was like multiple base races going on, multiple base defenses being put on. There's a couple like 2 Elder Dragons were taken, which is when it's just a weird game.
I
So
thought
really
initially.
fun match that we had on the stream here. And yeah, it was really good time.
Yeah, we got some clips tweeted out as well. Like you mentioned, Covey, just a crazy game. I implore you to go back and watch that on our Twitch if you missed it on Saturday. But we do have another one happening on Sunday, so maybe we're going to be getting some more action there. But yeah, lots of crazy stuff went down in that open qualifier on Saturday, and we also had some other open qualifiers going on. I believe Focus had one of theirs that happened, so that one, we got some more SGC stuff going on in that league as well. So
Yeah, we're getting into the full swing of things, which is really fun here. Because a lot of these, and like that was kind of the goal of this podcast. Like obviously it's being put on by Challengers Uprising, but we don't just want to talk about Cup, right? We want to talk about all of SGC. Because there are so many teams that are competing in Cup that are also competing in all these other leagues, and it's really fun to just kind of like go over the scenes, see who's doing well, see who's not, and also just talking to people in the scene as well. And I don't know about you, Smacks, but I'm really excited to get Dayos in here. Start talking with him about Radiance, his experiences with that team, how he's feeling about that team as well. And I think everyone else is looking forward to hear what he has to say as well.
absolutely. So without further ado, we're going to take it to a quick minute-long break so we can get him in here on the call. Stay tuned. We will be right back in just 60 seconds. We are back with Challengers chat room here. Dayos, head coach of Radiance, is here. You may know him from his previous work as well with Mirage and Winthrop University as a head coach, but he's currently on Radiance here. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic, man. Appreciate it.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. So we've got you in here for an interview on our podcast. Very glad to have you as well for this first episode. Just touching on a bit of Radiance. Is there anything you want to just say before we get into any questions here?
Not particularly right now. If I have something to say, I'll say it afterwards. I got you.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so just kind of like panning out with Radiance so far, you guys managed to take your first win in Risen Esports League. You were 2-1 in Upsurge with a match against Slaughterhouse tonight. How you feeling about that match coming up tonight?
I'm feeling confident. I'm feeling pretty confident,
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. You guys did take the first match against them again the first week of Upsurge Premier League already.
oh wow, really? It's
Yeah.
been a while then, huh?
Yeah, it's crazy with like so many leagues going on. I know it's like really tough for you guys to prep. That's actually something like we were talking with you about before we actually hopped in this call
Yeah.
about Radiance's approach to like kind of how to work with 6 SGC leagues. It's actually a little bit different than some of what the other big orgs are doing too. Do you mind like kind of expanding on like kind of your theory and what you see out of the like all the leagues going on right now?
Yeah, 100%. So when the 6 tournaments were released, right? Like there was a lot of chaos. Like people are like, "Oh my god, this is awful." People are like, "No, it's not really awful." So in regards to Radiance, like me and my staff, right? My manager Nova, my analyst getting groceries, and my other analyst, he's just really new, Prussian. We like had a conversation and we were talking about it. We're like, okay, this is what's going on. Like, are we going to join these tournaments, right? Like, is it worth losing the scrim practice to join these tournaments when in reality aren't really worth that many points? Like, let's be honest. No offense, obviously, to Focus and Risen. And then we were kind of on the fence, but we had a talk with our most recent member, right, Cow, and he showed his perspective on it, and we actually agreed a lot with him. He's basically just said, "All right, guys, like, I think the best practice that you can get is game day practice. Like, people are going to show up at their best, they're going to try their hardest, and from what I've heard, academy scrims, sorry, not academy scrims, amateur scrims are pretty troll, and I kind of agree with them. Sometimes they're kind of L9, they're kind of running it down.
Yeah.
At least with the fact that each of our games are going to be tournament games, it gives us a better opportunity to adapt, I would say, right? And play against people when they're performing at their best. Because someone's not going to pull out their super special Iron top lane in a competitive match, right? But at the very least, like, okay, if we're going to pull out something special, it's going to be on a match day. They're going to have to respect it. If you guys remember the Ziggs, hey, okay, it didn't look too good, but watch out, all right? He's coming in hot again.
I'm a fan of Ziggs, dude. I want to see more
yeah.
Ziggs play overall. I think he's actually like can be played well right now. And I do remember the Ziggs, and it didn't pan out, but hey, that's good too. And like the fact that yes, some of the leagues don't have as many points, but I think that's a really good point of like even going up against those teams. You know that some of the other teams might be taking that as serious as possible because not all amateur orgs are involved in every single SGC event, so that might be their one shot to get the points. You know?
And if I could cut in, I'm not
Yeah,
saying that we're not going to take these tournaments seriously. We're going to give
yeah.
it our all, right? Like every game, we're going to have to give it our all to get the most amount of practice. But it is what it is, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And like with 6 leagues going on and like, you guys having multiple competitive matches every single week, it's really hard to like actually isolate and prep for all those, right?
For sure.
I'm sure it's something like you struggle with like how do we prep for other teams specifically when ultimately like when you have this many games, sometimes the best way to go about that is just to kind of make sure that your team's performing the best that you guys can instead of prepping
Yeah.
for an individual one.
hmm
Yeah.
There's also the situation where your players are gonna perform better, or at least they got a little bit more pressure on them, right? When people are
Yeah.
watching, the games are being recorded as well as the results and everything. So
For
that's
sure.
that's another thing where it's a whole different beast from scrims, where you might just keep the match results and everything, but it's not something that's public. You're not gonna have people being like, "Oh, Radiance lost this game.
hmm
They might be in some trouble here." Like no one's gonna care about that with scrim. So that's another thing here.
Yeah.
That's a plus for you guys.
Yeah.
Honestly. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
would
but
say that. Oh, sorry, did I cut you guys off?
oh no, it's okay.
No, no.
Oh, all right, perfect. I don't want to, anyways.
No, it's always awkward like being on a call and like not in person, but yeah, we'll figure those out. So I was going over like some of your early season records, being 2-1 in Upsurge, being a part of the Big League Blitz, having to win that best of one on Friday, which I know that
Mhm.
the matches aren't public yet. So we can't reveal that. But I'm excited for all those matchups coming up on Friday. How would you say like compared to like your team's expectations and how things have been going, like how well do you think you guys are performing?
I'm gonna be honest. We're obviously not performing at expectations, but I would actually say that team mental wise, like it's really solid. Like I would say that for a team that isn't performing up to expectations, we're the most positive team that I've ever really worked with, right? Like everyone's like, yeah, like obviously we're not performing our best, but like we're improving, we're learning, right? We're getting better, and that's all that really matters. And it's really awesome. It's really amazing to work with a group of 5 guys whose only goal is to just get better. It makes things so much easier. And from my honest opinion, later down the line, trust me, we will be contenders. We will be a threat.
Right. That's what I like to hear. It's really good too. Like I know that even like the whole brand of Radiance, like Hyatt was kind of he did that with Cloud9, like trying to have like this positive brand, and he's done that now with Radiance, being in charge. So it's really good to hear that, like that's kind of following through, like with your guys' team, and that everyone's
hmm
having a really good attitude about things. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of those 5 players, I want to take this time to just shed some light on here because some people may not have seen, but recently had your announcement that you've got a new player here, Cow,
hmm
and I wanted to bring this up here because he's coming into the team. He has some experience in academy in the past 2 years on two different positions,
Yeah.
and I really want to hear your take on the new player you got.
So Cal came in, right? It was a team discussion. He's actually a friend with Avi, right? So that's how we had that initial connection. And honestly, Cal's great. Like he's really, really good. He's a leader. He's intelligent. He's Oh man, I almost said that he was smart, but that's another word of calling him intelligent, right? But I should say that he's like verbose, right? He's good with his words. And if anything, he adds that veteran experience that a lot of the LCS Academy teams are trying to do with like their younger rookies, right? Like we
Yeah.
have Young, like an up and coming mid laner. Uh he hasn't really had a chance to really show his chops, but in my opinion, like a really strong mechanical talent. Him being able to work with Kyle, who's very experienced, who's worked within the systems of academy, knows like what he wants. Like it's a great opportunity for all of us, honestly.
And that actually dives into another point that I was going to bring up, not with Young, but actually with Avi. Just like
Mhm.
given my own collegiate background, I know Avi came into UCI as this young, like he was supposed to kind of be the carry after Young bin left UCI and be this huge young
Yeah.
talent. And what's it like, kind of having those different walks of life almost, like with guys like Young in the mid lane or Avi in the jungle, coming into a team with a lot of experience with like Engo and now GN Cow too.
So you would think that because of the differences, right,
Hmm.
there would be big clashes in mentality or just general clashes in general because of different life experience, right? But in reality, they get along really well, and it really just comes down to the fact that they're connected. They're one thing, which is improvement. So I really wouldn't say that it's like too different. I don't think I answered your question very well, to be honest.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
that's fine. No, like that's good too. I guess like phrasing it like in a different way, like kind of like getting now into more of like coaching approach.
Mhm.
Like do you see that as like do you kind of like put those guys with experience in positions where like you're pulling them aside and being like, hey guys, like you're gonna have to like utilize your experience not only to help yourself but help the whole team here, or do you just kind of like sit back and try and be like that looser coaching, I kind of like let the players work that one out for themselves as you like kind of like make sure things are going well.
For sure, with the inclusion of Kyle and Avi
Hmm.
and even Andy, right? Like these players
Yeah,
are very vocal
yeah,
about how they view the game. So instead of a situation where during VOD review, it's me telling them how I view the game, it's more about, okay, how do we each view the game and what do we agree upon and what do we disagree upon? And I would say that my situation right now is more similar to grabs from G2, right? Where I'm really like coordinating discussion, like, okay, guys, what about this option? Like, how do you feel about this? Like, I agree with what Cal's saying, but you need to take into account of what Andy's saying here, right?
yeah,
Like, we're all trying to up everyone's general knowledge, right?
yeah. Are you like a fan of like basketball at all, or like basketball like history?
Let me think
Just
about
like
how to answer this question.
no, it's a yes or no, seriously,
No,
because
no, yeah,
it's like it.
it's like a maybe. Like I watch them
Okay,
on YouTube, right? Like they're pretty interesting. Let's be honest.
no, it's I just bring it up because like it's like the Phil Jackson approach, right? Like the classic. Phil Jackson won a lot of championships with teams with like huge personalities, and like
Hmm.
he had to manage Michael Jordan, Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen, and then
That's
he
a
did the
skill.
same thing with Kobe and Shaq. It is a skill, and it's kind of like the approach where like you're gonna be the alpha when you have to and step in, but also like it's good sometimes when the players just sort it out for themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, yeah, no, that's good. That's it's. I always like kind of asking like other coaches like kind of like what their philosophy is, like where they draw from. 'Cause there's so many different things that you can draw
Yeah.
from, and so many different styles that can work. So I'm always
Hmm.
like curious and like trying to draw, for myself, like if I'm ever in that position in the future, like what can I bring to the table like that I've heard that's new.
Yeah, I don't actually want to like interrupt anyone here, but it's really interesting that you mentioned that because I
Yeah.
was watching an episode of The Crackdown, right? And Sven was on it, and he was talking about Young Buck, and he was saying that even though Miffy was doing a lot of the actual coaching, like the actual teething, not teething, teaching, it
Hmm.
was Young Buck who was doing like an amazing job of pushing discussion. And I've even heard that from his transition, he's actually gotten a lot better at that. But like that's how it should be, right? Like these guys, like they're challenger players. Sometimes like coaches aren't high elo. It happens. But you should be learning from your players and then you should be getting better alongside them. And if, like God forbid, your macro knowledge is awful, right?
Yeah.
If you can at least guide discussion, if you can at least smooth the process of improvement, then you're doing something right.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I also was just thinking about this. You're kind of in a unique position where you are working alongside the first guy to ever really bring coaching into light to the League of Legends scene with Lemon Nation.
Oh
With his old
yeah,
school notebook.
the
Is
Notebook.
is he a
Oh
guy that
man,
yeah,
that's a blaster of the past. Honestly,
yeah. You got your own Radiance notebook that you bring to the games?
I uh I got the Radiance notepad on my computer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
How
Very
the times
nice.
have changed.
I I'm a man of the future, I must say.
Does he ever step in with his old notebook at all?
I actually haven't had a chance to interact with him, but
Oh.
who I had a chance to interact with is actually High, and honestly, like, it's really nice. Like, he's a veteran, even though, like, he's pretty young, right? Like, we're not that far away from age, and when I just ask him these questions and he explains his thought process, it's, like, really clear to me that his experience matters, right? Like, he comes to these conclusions, but, "Okay, this play is wrong, this play is correct," so quickly, when for example, me, like, I'd have to think more about other options, like, I'd have to consider other options, when, like, in reality, he's just like, "No, these other options don't really matter, like, this is the correct play," and that confidence and just saying, like, "This is right," is something that I want to achieve within myself, right?
Yeah, he was like the ultimate in-game leader. Like I
Mhm.
Yeah.
I always have the argument that like, some people don't agree, but I always thought that season 4 Cloud9 team that went to Worlds is still the best team that NA ever sent to Worlds. Like the fact that they almost took Samsung Blue to like 5 games, and
Mhm, yeah.
I will never forget the interview too. Like afterwards, like High gave it. He's like, I individually like wasn't good enough, and like to me, it's always just a sign of like a great leader. Like when you take
You can
blame
admit your
upon
mistakes,
yourself.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I always really looked up to High for like that mentality that he had. And he was an amazing leader. Like, and he was a great player as well. But obviously, like we all know him for the Ninja Z and like that bot lane
Yeah, yeah.
against Samsung Blue. Yeah.
We also
Uh,
know him for being brought in for, jungle and support too when they needed
Oh,
an in-game
man.
leader as well. So
High's Shyvana jungle. What a beast. What a beast.
Yeah. I guess it's always fun to reminisce about old league, but kind of getting back to your team. So you were talking about like how, like you guys are really positive. Like even though like you haven't been performing up to your expectations, like you guys are still performing rather well, but it's not good enough for what you guys want.
Mhm.
And it's great to be positive like within the game, but what's your team like outside of the game as well? Like do those personalities like kind of come in like in and out of like the team environment, or like are some players like completely different, outside the game they are in the game?
I would say that their personalities are pretty similar, like, outside and inside,
Yeah.
but I would say that a big thing that not many people really appreciate is that when you're coaching someone, right? Like you form a relationship with them, like a personal relationship. Obviously you are their coach, but also you need to take into account their other needs and like getting to know these players, not just as my players, but as individuals, honestly, one of the greatest experiences ever. People know me from working with Mirage, right? Like those guys are
Mhm.
like my day ones. Like I know all of them, like they're my friends, but I was given the advice that hey, to really improve, to really get better, you should work with more players with different players because you're stagnating yourself. Like you're staying with what's comfortable, right? And going into Radius was an uncomfortable decision, right? Leaving all those people that I've known for a while and I really trusted. But if I didn't, like I wouldn't have met Alvin, Engo, right? Like this guy's super chill. Like he's the most chill guy I've ever met, honestly, right? Like he can really run it down, and then he'll just go, "Oh man, guys, like I'm playing poorly." And Avi, like just to give an example of Avi, like I don't know a guy who like works harder than him. Like he's still in school. Like he is still in
Yep.
school. Like he's juggling school. He's juggling all these scrim practices. Like all he asked of me was just give me 1 day for homework and I'm fine. Right? Like that's absurd. I would not be able to juggle all of those things. Sorry, is
yeah,
it okay
that's
if
a
I go through like
drive.
all the players?
No,
Like I want to
yeah,
give them
no,
all the
go,
spotlight.
dude. Yeah, yeah, do it.
Like Young, like, he's really determined as well. Like, I would say that he deserves a shot. Like, I really do believe that he deserves a shot. Like, once again, he's one of those, like, really chill people. Like, when we talk about the game, like, he's always looking to learn. And he's really upfront about his difficulties as well. Like one day we were just talking and he's like, "Yeah, I'm doing this poorly. Like, can you help me get better at this?" And that humility, the ability to say that I have a weakness, can you help me overcome it? That would make him go far, right?
Yeah.
Andy, honestly, this guy's he's a beast, man. Like mechanically, he's extremely talented. He's really smart. Like I love working with him. And even though like King Trevor, like he's no longer with the team, like he's so funny. Like I love that guy, right? Like he's a really nice guy to hang out with. But that doesn't change the fact that with Cal coming in, like we really have a leader, I would say, in game. Not saying that Avi or Andy or Alvin or Young aren't leaders, but he really brings to that veteran experience. And as I get to know him more, as I get to really experience his personality, the more I realize that having that leadership quality within your team in the form of a player is extremely important just based off of the maturity, right? When you're in those really awful situations in the game, like guys, it's it's 9 to 18 and then you just hear someone go, "All right, boys, let's run it down. If it goes well, it goes well. If it doesn't, focus on the next game." That's amazing, right?
Yeah. No, that's really good to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of comes full circle with High, right?
Yeah, it
That's
really
exactly
does.
what he
Yeah,
did. So
honestly.
that's just what Radiance is about, I guess. It's just
Yeah.
having those in-game leaders for the players and everything. That's
Mm.
really cool. Especially something I want to bring up is that he role swapped to support from AD, right?
Yeah.
So that's a role where it's very difficult to really shot call from and really like
Mhm.
be the one who's like organizing everything because you got to farm all the time. You got to have the best positioning. I'm really like belittling the role, I guess, by like
Oh, no
cutting
worries,
it
no
down to
worries.
these things. But you have so much on your plate when you're playing bot lane. So it really makes you wonder if this is something that he's been doing even in that role, and then coming to support where you have less things to worry about. That just becomes like front and center, and you can really shine in that.
For sure. I mean, I think swapping from AD to support just gives him a better chance to really showcase his tactical mind, right? And his leadership. Like you said, there's less in-game responsibilities mechanically. So he's allowed to have a greater presence through other means. And you can see like a lot of teams trying to run that experiment where Keith obviously tried to become a support for a bit. And I would say that Kao is one of the successful ones and hope he makes it back to Academy or LCS next split for sure.
Everyone's trying to run the core JJ model.
Yeah,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
Like
E1 World's doing it, so
this one's a quick tidbit from like amateur,
Yeah.
but we've been swapping people to support long before. Uh I think two supports you guys would recognize, Pocus and Mist. Both
Mhm.
of these guys were mid lane mains. Could you imagine? Like they both swapped around the same year, and now they're like what? The premier NA support talent, or at the very least, like the highest LP, right?
Yeah.
Like in Challenger.
Yeah.
Uh there's even like a stint, I think recently, where Julian was like playing support for followers. I don't even know what was going on
Was.
there, by the way.
Yeah, he was.
yeah.
They tried to bring in Youngby, and then they put Julian down there. Obviously Julian having that experience with, Maryville. I'm sure that, they probably did that not for, his support play and support pool, but maybe like just the leadership,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's like one of the tough things really like when commenting about teams as well is obviously like we have to make the game sound interesting, but like we don't know what's going on within a team, and so like we can guess.
Hmm.
I feel like that's a pretty safe guess, but that's also tough because obviously like we don't know what's going on within teams, which is why it's really fun to talk to players and coaches to kind of learn more about like how all these teams work. So yeah.
Hmm. I think
Something else I was actually what were you
no,
gonna
no,
say?
you go.
Oh, okay. Something that actually like I really wanted to bring up, just given like your background with Mirage, who personally I think is a team that is actually playing very well for SGC and is not getting enough respect.
Those guys are
Um,
the best. They're
yeah.
beasts.
Besides like Mirage, like are there any other teams that you feel like when you go up against them, that they're actually a lot better team than like what the public thinks or like what the record may show so far this season, like an SGC? Like thinking like all the amateur teams you guys go up against.
All right, give me a moment. Let me pull the bad boys up. All right, let's run down the list. Maryville. So those guys, right? They were initially slumping,
Yeah.
Keep in mind that I don't want to be spouting any rumors, right? Like I don't
Yeah.
want to say anything that's untrue, but I thought that it was because it was all online, right? Like Maryville, they've always had their players in person, and being able to work in person, in my opinion, is a really big benefit. I think that you can improve faster when you're
Yes.
surrounded by your teammates and surrounded by your coach. But obviously, right, like they got used to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they are on a tear. They are demolishing their opponents. I'm not going to say demolishing, right? It was a close game, 2-1 versus Mirage, but they're really like performing well. Like I would be afraid. Well, I would not be afraid. I'd be excited to play against Maryville again. 100 Thieves next, obviously, right? Anu, Mirage, and then after that point, I don't think we've really played against that many people to have a good enough idea. Like Full Spectrum is performing really well, but we've actually never played against Full Spectrum, so I'm not really sure, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta throw some support to the boys at CLT Phoenix. You know, like they 2-0'd us. Well, they didn't. They 2-1'd us. They 2-1'd Mirage. Like they got some secret sauce in there somewhere. I don't know.
It's weird too, because like we were actually about to like kind of talk about CLT Phoenix towards like the post game schedule, because while they've like had those big upsets and those high points, they've also had some low points. Like they didn't
Hmm.
qualify for LWL. They didn't qualify for Cup this past weekend. They have another chance on Sunday for this upcoming weekend. But what's your impression of them? Because I've done some prep on their team a few times, and they play very different compared to what a lot of other like amateur teams play like. So I'm curious to what your impression of them is.
I think that they play differently, right? And you already touched upon that, but I really want to expand on what that really means. When you play against the same people, like you'll have like similar scrim partners each time. You get used to that style and just the sheer shock factor, right? Of playing against a team that does things that you aren't used to, most of the time is good enough to tip it in their favor. Like everyone can have a plan, right? Until you get punched in the face. That's what it really is, right?
Yeah.
Like you could have a plan until Easton blinds his Fiora, and it's like, alright, we'll just counterpick this dude. I mean, I guess not. I guess he's just literally Faker, right?
Yeah.
But it
His
really
his
comes
Fiora
down to
is
that.
insane.
Yeah, it's like it really comes down to that. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I don't want to like say bad things about them, but I will say what I expect. I expect that these top teams will get used to it. They'll become cleaner, and the wild, chaotic style of CLT Phoenix is less likely to succeed, or it just becomes even more chaotic and they improve at a faster rate. We'll never know until later on. But
Yeah.
I think they're an exciting team, and people who are interested in the SGC circuit should be following them, right?
I know that on Sunday, their game 3, they pulled out Rumble Senna bot with that new Senna build where you go Grasp and Frozen Mallet. And
Yeah, that's a
Disconnector went
banger.
legendary on Rumble. I'm a fan of Disconnect. I think Disconnector is really good, but it was fun seeing him do so well on a champion that you would not expect him to play, and they went off. It
Oh
was
man.
yeah.
If I
Yeah.
could tell you something about Disconnector, it's so funny that we
Please do.
mentioned role swaps.
Yeah.
He was a top laner for a bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a top laner for a bit for GVU. He was their top laner, right? I
Huh.
mean,
Yeah.
honestly, like NA and role swaps, uh,
Yeah.
AD carry, top laner, back to ADC, right? We're looking at Gorica from Golden Guardians. He
Mhm.
was the top laner for Western Ontario.
Yep.
He was an AD carry main. He became an AD carry main. Like, who knows, man? Who knows?
Oh, yeah.
Saskio, right? Like, I don't even know how
Oh,
many
dude.
viable competitive roles this guy's played.
Don't even get me started on Saskia, man, because like when I coached Miami, we had to prep for them in the north, and
Mhm.
you always had he would pull out Kled bot in clutch games and win every single time. It was terrifying.
Dude,
Yeah.
it's it's amazing, right? Like, it really is.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
this one isn't relevant to like the amateur scene, but oh, what was his name? Diamond, right? For
Oh,
Cloud9
yeah.
Academy.
Yeah. Yeah. He's
Oh,
really
He
good.
has a
yeah.
he has a really clean ADC, a really, really clean ADC actually.
Hmm.
I would say that the more roles that you're comfortable with, like that you're good at, is a pretty good indication of how skilled you are, right? Because being skilled at another role means that you know that role, right? And obviously more knowledge about each role, more knowledge in general shows that you're skilled, right? Shows how skilled you are.
And
That's
Dayos
why I
is
play
just
random in Smash, as I just know every
I mean,
character. So
I know that High even himself took that approach. He'd fill in solo queue.
yeah.
You're getting poisoned by High, man. Come on, you
Oh,
gotta do
dude.
one tricks. NA one
Oh
tricks.
no. If you look at my solo queue, like I play like so many roles in solo queue, right? But you check at the statistics. If you do not see me play AD, you're getting griefed, unfortunately. Like I'm not trying to grief you. I'm not trying to grief you, but let me look at my stats right now. Like it's really awful, guys. I'm not proud of
I
it.
really feel you. I'm a support player, but recently I've been having a lot of fun with jungle, and
Mhm.
I've played like 40 or some games of solo queue on jungle in the past few days, and I looked at my win rate, and I really wish that I didn't, because it was like 30 or something. I was
Okay,
like,
okay.
oh no.
Prepare yourself, guys. Are you ready?
All right,
Are you
let's hear this.
prepared?
Let's go into Dayos' solo queue stats.
1, 2,
Yeah, let's
3,
see it.
4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. In my top 7, I have 3 mid laners, right?
Okay.
Coming in at number 4, Rise. 26 games, 35% win rate. Oh
Oof.
no. Coming in at number 7, Oriana. 16 games, 38% win rate. Now, this one's a shocker, but Cassio, 71% win rate, 21 played, but that's Cassbot.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Like, I'm not trying to grief you, man. But please look at my op.gg and dodge.
All right, so be careful. If you are sitting around plat 1, you might reach
Whoa,
gatekeeper
whoa, whoa,
Dayos.
whoa. D4, buddy.
Oh,
D4.
D4. Okay, D4. You might reach gatekeeper Dayos if you're trying to get
Yeah,
promoted. So
I'm also in D4, but I don't know if I keep playing jungle. I might
I
be one of those gatekeepers.
no. We're hitting masters together this season, buddy. Okay,
Oh yeah?
together.
Okay. The
Oh
mid
man,
jungle synergy of the 30% win rate too.
Oh no.
that's all. I always love point out like we all obviously play the game or our own
Mhm.
solo queue exchange or experiences. They're crazy, but I like the fact that you bring up multiple roles because that's something that like people who have traveled and played solo queue and other regions have always said like people in off roles over there are so significantly better, whether it's like just players like in high elo or like pros that they come across that are off rolled. So yeah, it makes sense, right? Because like ultimately, like League is there is the execution part of the skill, but it's also like a part of it is a puzzle that like you have to solve every game.
Yeah, I agree.
And yeah, so it makes sense that like if you have a more well-rounded knowledge, that it helps on both
Mhm.
ends. So yeah, that's
I always
interesting
like the
though.
comparison that can be made between basketball and League of Legends, because there's 5 players, they each have different positions, but
Yeah.
they're all trying to do the same thing, right? You have to be good at the same things to be a basketball player, to be a League player, even though there are different intricacies and different like things you can do within every position. If you can if you can do the fundamentals very well, then you can probably have success with other positions in both games. So I think there's a lot of really cool parallels that you can make between those two games. And I always bring that up with my dad, because he's a big basketball fan, but he doesn't really know anything about League. I always relate that kind of stuff to him.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But
Deus, I know that we're not quite done with time. We are running out of time. I know that one other thing that I was actually really interested on hitting on with you is kind of like overall like philosophy when it comes to like coaching. I was just curious, like, do you draw? I know I asked like if you like kind of model coaching off of like other or like I made like the Phil Jackson comparison. But, like, are there like any like philosophies, like any like individual coaches like you kind of try and model like your approach off of or anything like that?
If you asked me this question earlier on in my career,
Yeah.
I would have so many examples to give you, right? Because when I first came onto the scene, young blood, right? Obviously, I didn't know that much, and I asked many people, right? And
Hmm.
I'm certain like those people today don't really remember it, but even if I list them, like you'll recognize some names. Like I slid right in there, slid into Zoo's DMs. I'm like, hey man, like how would you handle this situation? Daruk, right? He worked
Hmm.
in the UK for a bit. I think right now he's teamless. Pick him up. He's a beast. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But like he
Hmm.
even answered a couple of my questions, right? So I would say that like the amateur scene brought me up, right? Like the boys from the amateur scene, like all the top tier coaches, like I've taken many things from all of them, right?
Yeah.
And not just that, like obviously, uh, I don't know if this is a common answer, but I would say Mithy is a like big motivator for me because like obviously playing, right? And coaching at the same time, just having that game knowledge, just having the understanding where you can tell people of different roles like with certainty, with fact that hey, like you're doing this incorrectly, right? Because I want to be more than just someone who helps out with discussion. Like I want to teach, right? And Mithi is one of the people where every time they talk about this guy, they're like, yeah, he taught me something new. Yeah, this guy changed my perspective on this. And I want to be that for someone else, right?
Yeah. I one of the assistant coach for TSM is actually Hatham, who came up through Miami University and our program. So I got the chance to work with him and like at Miami, and we've stayed close. And so I actually talked to him about working with Mithy, like while on TSM, and he said that Mithy would during like the regular season and the split, his entire focus would be on his teammates. And he would be like, I'm gonna do everything in my power to like teach you guys and help you guys get better and lift you guys up and like make sure like we're the best team. And then when playoffs came, his entire focus was like it was still on the team, but like, it was on his play. He's like, I'm gonna make sure that like I've taught you guys everything I know. I'm gonna play the best that like I can, and as a team, we're gonna like do the best that we can. I thought it was like so interesting because you talked about having the power of like the players like while they
Hmm.
coach like and having that in-game presence and that in-game leadership,
Yeah.
and he brought that from like inside the game and outside of the game, like from what I've heard, in a way that's just uh it's really cool. And I think that it's really hard to replicate like from like other players, like trying to think
Yeah.
of, like around like I cannot think of like players off the top of my head, minus like, not that I have any knowledge, but like Faker, like
Yeah.
that works with his team so closely to like make sure like everyone's doing so well. It's like such a leader like that in the game.
Honestly, it's really admirable. Like it's
Yeah,
really admirable.
yeah. It's a lot of power to like think about. It's really easy to like tunnel on what you're doing, and it's really hard to like think about like what's best for everyone. I don't know. It's an admirable skill. I like the way that you put that. Yeah.
Yeah, I fully agree. I've been a TSM fan for a long time, so I was really excited when they brought him in because like for a really long time it was like I don't know, maybe this is getting too much into like the pro scene and everything, but ah, never mind.
No, no, I'm sure.
well,
I
it's
mean, let's be honest. If you're watching like this, you got to be interested in the pro scene, man. Speak your
that's
Yeah.
heart
true.
out.
Yeah.
It is true, but yeah, I've got a TSM hoodie on the ground here. I haven't put it
Big
on in
fan.
a bit,
Hashtag big
but
fan.
yeah. I was really excited when Mithy and Sven first joined the team because I was like, yes, we're finally going to get some veteran backup for
Yeah.
Bjergsen, just like in the game leadership and stuff like that. So yeah, that's always really cool, especially if you can have like multiple. I know that's like completely unprecedented, but like multiple people that are like that in the game, because like you're mentioning, it's really hard to think of people who like fit that mold. There was like Envious had Lyra, I guess, who was like the player coach. Everyone referred to him as that, but I think that was more just because he stepped in out of necessity, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And like it's good that he did that because that's what people know him as, right? But
Yeah.
it's really hard to come by.
Yeah. And also like, the accomplishments of Lyra compared to Mithy too. Like Mithy did that and got his team to semis at Worlds, and not to mention all the titles he won over in the LEC.
Right.
And it's fun watching him coach Fnatic now because that Fnatic team thinks really differently about the game, and I have a lot of respect for that. Like the stuff like they pull out, it's really interesting.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah, I
awesome.
agree.
Deus, is there anything else you'd like to say? Any shout outs you want to give? Anything like that?
Yes. 100%. How much time do I got? Be honest with me.
Yeah, you got 5 minutes, man.
All right,
Knock it
five
out.
minutes.
Take it all. Yeah, all you.
All right, let's go. Okay. First things first. I want to I want to say thanks to our sponsors from Radiance,
Yeah.
Tetra Subs, founded by gamers, working for a leading brain health company, Procera. Oh, I hope I didn't say that incorrectly. And Zowie, Zowie, a
Mhm.
company who focus on the experience of players and fans. So these are just like the two companies that Radiance is actually partnered with, right?
Yeah.
If you're interested, you can find it on their website. But moving away from that, I want to talk about the people who I think are undervalued within the scene that I'm currently working with, right? One, my manager Nova, right? He's done a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and I think that he needs to be acknowledged for it, right? He actually had a really large hand with creating the Radiance roster that you see today. So you could say that it's almost like his brainchild alongside Moon. Obviously, people kind of think of managers as like scrim monkeys, right? Like they book the scrims, make schedule, right? But really, if you form a close relationship with them, they're more than that. They well, at the very least, in the case for me, he he's like the second voice, right? Like the voice of reason sometimes. Like I ask him for advice, he helps me out with a lot of things.
Mhm.
And even not just with Radiance, but also with Mirage. Lena, perchance. I don't know if you probably don't know her, right? Because obviously these people aren't in the spotlight, but she does a really, really amazing work, right? Really amazing work. I would say that she's not even a manager at this point. Like she's basically an analyst, she's basically an assistant coach. Like these people are really doing stuff behind the scenes and they deserve the respect, right?
Yeah.
And same thing with analysts, right? We brought in a recent analyst getting groceries. He does internal data. He tracks our internal data. He helps us come up with plans, right? Even our newer one, Prussian,
Mhm.
he I think he like worked with a collegiate team. Like he was like a high elo mid for a while, but he's actually the guy who did the scouting grounds thing from last year. You guys remember? Where it was like, oh, this guy like chance of making to academy high/moderate, like was a Reddit post really popular.
Yeah. I'm,
No, I
I'm
don't.
trying. I can't think of it
Yeah,
off
off
the
the
top of my
top of my
head, but
head.
keep going. Yeah.
Anyways, like he's just recently new, right? He just came on. He's working on external scouting. Really awesome guy, right?
Mhm.
And I'm sure there are like countless of people like this out there, like working within your favorite teams, like analysts working with Maryville, assistant coaches working with like a new right 100 Thieves. Like we don't know about these people because they're not talked
Yeah.
about enough, but like they deserve the recognition, and that's really my final piece, right?
Yeah. Well, hey, I think it's an awesome note to go out on. Making sure that all those people get credit because it takes a village to make sure
Oh,
that everything's raised well. All right.
I
What's up?
forgot someone. Wait, I forgot someone. Win you both. That guy's amazing. From Winthrop University. I appreciate you, man. Much love.
Oh,
Much
okay.
love.
Yeah.
I
Collegiate shoutouts. Yeah.
collegiate shoutouts. I
Yeah.
mean, woohoo. But now I'm done. I'm done for sure now.
Yeah. Well, hey, Dayos, thanks so much for coming on, man. I know that you were our first guest, but I really enjoyed, chatting and getting to know you a little bit. And it's always fun to hear about, coaches' philosophies and also what's going on with Radiance. So if anyone wants to catch Radiance's games, I don't know if you're going to be streamed by UPL tonight, but it
No
is
clue.
going to go down at 8 p.m. Eastern. So hopefully it's a pretty good match tonight against Slaughterhouse. Best of luck to you guys, and also
Thank
in
you.
Big League Blitz later this week.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. That
yeah, I
one's a
know I can't
banger.
I can't reveal the matchup yet, but I'm excited for the matchups that we
I
have
can
on Friday.
I can hint towards it. It's gonna
Uh,
be a
yeah,
banger, boys. I mean,
it's going to be a banger.
it's going to be a banger.
It's going to be a really good match. So, yeah, tune into Radiance games coming on up across all of SGC. And Deus, thanks so much for coming on, man. It was a blast talking to you.
All right, peace, boys. Good luck with the rest of your stream.
Oh, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, yeah, we're just gonna hop right into our review of or our overview of what's gonna happen in the coming week here in SGC. Of course, because we are here on the Challengers Uprising Twitch channel, let's just hop into the open qualifier for us. That is gonna happen on the 7th on Sunday, uh, right here on this channel. I believe at the same time that the last one happened, at 3 p.m. Eastern time. If
Yeah,
I'm
it's
if
going to
I'm
be
wrong about
on
that, then
Sunday. Yeah, the only difference is going to be on Sunday this week, but
yeah.
I believe it's going to be TJ and Iberia again. Don't quote me on that, but should be really fun. Another great OC or OQ coming on out. Gonna have to see if some of those teams can sneak on in there that we were expecting. Seems like CLT Phoenix, or Bark Bark, who came so close. Are they going to be able to make it in this week? We're going to have to find out because they have to start from scratch and play through again.
Yeah, and one of those teams that I want to give a little bit of a longer spotlight to is Team Fish Taco. Now, this is a team that we had in the bubble teams, right? We expected a lot from them. We expected that they were going to be the favorites, or one of the favorite teams coming out of this, but they did not do very well, and it is in part because Strumpist overslept on the day.
Yeah, that was an oopsie coming out from Strumpist. Yeah, don't want to do that, obviously. But that said, TFT, we're hoping that that doesn't happen again in the future. And it's a team that they've really struggled in the scouting grounds. And a part of the reasons why they were one of our bubble teams is given their history, right? And I know a lot of coaches, like they have a coach that was at MSU that I have a lot of respect for, and Warbird's helping out over there. Some others. Yeah, it's a bummer that they've really been struggling across all leagues. I think when we were taking inventory, they were like 2-14 for a game score.
Yeah.
And they recently, they did swap out that top side of the map, bringing in Mateusz and Rosethorn for both top and jungle. But we're gonna have to see if that's like the honeymoon phase that they really need to turn this around, because they've been hurting.
Right. And the roster swap and Strumpus not being there, those are definitely excuses that are completely valid for their results. But they're going to run out of excuses if they lose again on Sunday, because then they're out of time here for Challengers Uprising anyway. That's the last opportunity for them and other teams as well, like you mentioned, Charlotte Phoenix and a few of these other ones. That's the last opportunity to get into Challengers Uprising. So they're going to really need to bring it. Set your alarm clock, Strumpus, on Sunday.
Yeah, and like this is something where like we expect TFC to be a better team than like what they've shown up so far. Strumpus is a player that has a lot of experience, very skilled mid laner. But the rest of the team, it just feels like they haven't really found their stride yet, and they're gonna need to fast because leagues like Big, I know they're in the Big League Blitz for Big again this week. They have to win that best of one to make the lower bracket of playoffs. Upsurge is already heavily underway, and they've been hurting in there. And with all these other leagues coming up getting started up now too, they really have to step it up and make sure that they're on their A game so that they can qualify for SGC, because it's one of the teams like it's not like an S tier or an A tier team, but we expect them to be cracking the top 8 for these leagues, and they've really come up short so far.
Yeah, fully agree. And like you mentioned, a lot of the leagues have already started, and they're already halfway done, right? We're already halfway done with the UPL regular season. So yeah, they're definitely running out of time here. But speaking of time, it is time this week for that Big League Blitz, and I really want to highlight that that's going to happen on Friday. We got 4 best of 1 matches, 8 teams. That is not going to be a day that you want to miss. That's going to happen on Friday. I don't know like the exact time, but that's going to be an incredible stream to watch out for.
Yeah, it's going to be on Friday. I believe it's going to start 6 p.m. Eastern. It is 4 games straight. And we don't know the matchups yet. I'm very excited for the matchups. I do know the matchups. I cannot reveal though. But there are going to be some good games, and the fun part about this format, it's 4 games. They're all best of ones. If you lose, you're out. You're eliminated. And the other 4 teams that get through, that decides the lower half of that playoff bracket that they have over at Big League, and that's one of the bigger point getters for SGC. So it's really important that these teams get through, and teams like Radiance, teams like Supernova, teams like Team Fish Tacos, they're on the bubble over there at Big League. So really impactful day for the amateur scene going on Friday. So definitely book your calendars to be tuned for Big League NA there on Twitch.
Absolutely. And like we mentioned with Dayos, Radiance is going to be there. They're going to be on that stream along with their UPL match tonight. Lots of stuff going on here as we make our mad dash to the scouting grounds. I'm really pumped to see some more gameplay. Of course, we're going to be getting some very soon in a couple of hours as well on the UPL stream as well. Let me just go ahead and check what game is being streamed today. I believe it's in the Group D.
It's Empyreans versus CLT Phoenix.
Right,
is
yeah.
going to be the game on stream today. Empyrean or CLT Phoenix, we talked about them earlier. A lot of their early game aggression coming on through. It's actually always really entertaining to watch them. So I highly recommend that you go over and see one of those games, because they only know one speed, and that is 12 out of 10. So they're going to play real fast. But actually, some other notable matchups going on in the league there today. We have Maryville Esports going up against SN Dark Matter, who have Being Supernova's second team, they've actually managed to qualify for quite a few leagues through OQs, which has been great to see. And also a new esports in that same group's taking on Wildcard Gaming. Wildcard, they've been off to a tough start in UPL. They've been a team that's kind of been up and down, not qualifying for LWL, but having good showings in other leagues. Having a good performance against the new esports, who is that S tier amateur team a lot of teams are looking up to right now, is one of the stronger teams in the SGC. Taking a game or two off them, or even a match, that would be a huge push for them to really kind of come over the hump and make sure that they start putting together some better results.
And if I were to highlight one of these matches here that's going on tonight, it would be Team Fish Taco versus Supernova. For the reasons that we mentioned with Team Fish Taco before, of course, they are kind of at a low point right here. But if this is a team with a lot of expectations and they are at a low point, then it's only a matter of time before they do spring back up. And they're going against Supernova, who did take a loss to Frostfire.
Yeah, and we don't expect that out of Supernova. This is a good chance for them to bounce back. But yeah, Frostfire, it's a team. It's a player org pretty much. They've got Quas on there, a lot of experience as well. They managed to take down Supernova in a 2-1 for Risen. Gonna have to see if they can bounce back against TFT. Maybe if they might be more than a trip, it might be a stumble. Might be a chance for TFT to, come back and kind of shut us up and, put some wins on the board, because that's what we want to see out of them. So could be a great match for them to, turn the ship around here for SGC.
Yeah, and Frostfire as well. Taking that win against Supernova, they are also playing tonight, so look out for them.
Yeah, they're going up against 100 Thieves next.
Right.
Tough game.
Yeah, very tough game.
Tough game. But we'll see what happens. So that's all going to be on the UPL. If you are not tuning into Upsurge, their main channel, check out the team's channels or the teams on Twitter, as I'm sure many of you follow, to make sure that you're watching the match that you want to watch over there. And besides that, Big League Blitz on Friday. Please tune into that. That's going to be very, very exciting for those teams. And going to be some good matchups, some exciting matchups too, with 4 best of ones. So that's going to be really fun over there.
Yeah, and be sure to tune into this Twitch channel again on Sunday here for the second and final open qualifier for this split of Challengers Uprising. That's going to be, like we mentioned before, 3 Eastern time on Sunday. So you're not going to want to miss that one. But for now, for us, that's going to do it here. We're going to be back with another episode this time next week as well on Tuesday at 5 Eastern. So you're not going to want to miss that one, where we will be back with Cubby and Smacks.
Real quick, I believe we might have a guest for that, but we are looking for more guests. So we'd love to talk to anyone. If you're a player, coach in the scene, reach out to us. We're going to be reaching out to people as well. Seriously, we just want to get to know people in the scene, give you a chance to talk about your team and make sure that the guests look really good. And thank you so much to Dayos for coming out as well, because we had a really good time talking with him, and it was really fun to hear more about Radiance and, how Ngo goes 0-12 in solo queue and is still like, nah, man, it's chill. It's always the fun stuff you pick up.
Yeah, it's always fun to hear what players are like behind the scenes and everything. I'm really glad that they have that team environment where they're really happy with each other and the morale's high, because that always makes things a lot more fun. But yeah, thanks again to Dayos for coming in on the interview. Thanks to our producer Leche for putting this all together as well, and thanks to you, Cubby, as well, and to all of you watching for making this one a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was great. Time Smacks. Until next time, though, thanks so much for tuning in the Challengers chat room. Catch all that amateur play, and we'll be right back here next week for all things that you need to hear about for the Scouting Ground circuit.